During my time in Nigeria, I met a lot of different people, but the first one I met, I will never forget. It was the driver from the department that took me from the airport to Nsukka. So it was a long way from Enugu airport to Nsukka. And I was with the head of department that was at the time a Canadian that had just come for a short while to help the university be rebuilt after the war. And that driver was initially somebody that I didn't talk to because I was just in the car and he was driving. But at a point, the car had to stop because we had a tire puncture on the way. And at that time, there was no motorway between Nsukka and Enugu. It was a very long road that was going up and down, up and down. And we had that tire puncture, so we stopped. And I don't remember ever talking to the head of department, funnily, but I remember talking to the driver while he was, you know, putting the car up and changing the tire to the spare tire. We started chatting and he was asking me why I was coming to Nigeria. He was curious because it was shortly after the war. And I said here that actually I know someone and we're going to marry. So I came to see the country first. And he was very, very supportive. He said, "Oh, that's lovely." He encouraged me. And he started talking to me about the environment. And there was one of these Igama lizards that is called Orubulu in Igbo. And it was very fascinating to look at because he had a reddish head and a green vest, and he was always doing like that, you know, like somebody that would do an exercise. And I'd never seen such a lizard, so I was really interested. And he told me the name of the lizard, and it was really a lovely experience. And later on, during the time I was there, I met a lot of people, but actually my love was going to the small people, you know. I was in another world from the one of my colleagues, because at that time most of my colleagues were men, and they used to meet outside to socialize in a kind of cafe that was the staff lodge, the staff room, and drinking beer there. And obviously it was not a place for women, and women were not going there usually. And the tradition in that university was that men were lecturers and their wives were teaching in secondary school. And we were exactly the opposite. My husband, by choice, not that he could not have done something else, was in secondary school because that is where his passion was, his calling was, with teenagers. And I was in the university. So it was a weird situation. And at first, before people discovered that I was engaged, they were saying, you know, we saw you in Ukeke with somebody Okeke. They didn't know the name of the person. They were just probably overheard me calling his first name Mokeke, and they concluded that it was Mr. Okeke. So they were puzzled, and maybe they were even hoping that I was one of these prizes for eligible bachelors, you know. But in fact, that one was another story, really, because when I was newly arrived, the Vice Chancellor invited me for supper. He was an older man, an Igbo man, that had been parachuted to the university, and his wife was British. And they had only one son, and they invited me, and the son was there. And my husband later joked that maybe they were hoping that he would marry me. But of course, when the Vice Chancellor heard that I was engaged, he was enraged. So I was not invited anymore. You know. But usually the people I preferred to talk with were the clerks, the the typists, the cleaners. I was feeling so comfortable with them, and they just took me as I was, and it was really, really lovely. And I became friends with the clerks from the housing committee, obviously, because for 10 years I was always looking for a better house because of the circumstances and that were due to me anyway. But I used to go and visit the clerks, and also the telephone was not really working on campus. So if you try, there's a phone on your desk as a head of department, but if you try to phone, the line is not working, and yet you are just trying to phone the other side of the campus. So when I was head of department, I used to take 2 hours a day from 8 to 10 a.m. to go and chase the letters that were not replied. So if I send a letter through a clerk, then after that, I'll go for it. And I remember somebody that when I was coming to his office, I would just sit down and say, my letter. And he confessed one day that when he sees me in his office, his heart will miss a bit, because he knows that there is absolutely nothing he can do except replying straight away, because otherwise I'll stay there. That's what I used to tell them. I'm here to stay until you give me the reply, and then I go. And it was quite a challenge. Sometimes if I don't like something that people have done, like one time there was an irregularity in the admissions process, and I just went to see the person in charge and said, you have to right the wrong immediately, otherwise I will be there. So I used to talk to people, and there were all kinds of people that were in the university that we chatted with. And also my husband was quite good at the same. We had one mind actually on that, and like would go to the market and talk to the shoemaker, the tailor, the women selling honey, dark honey. And these people were lovely to talk to, and I really enjoyed them.